We're at the end of 2 very busy, thought-provoking days, and certainly I think Glenn has done a great job in bringing us to this place now. As I have been doing throughout, I would really like to ask you both for your reflections on what you've heard. 5 things stand out for me really that have been pervasive throughout. Number 1 is the excitement and dynamism of this creative industries that it seems will go on and on and on, but not without hard work and an awful lot of challenge that faces along the way. Number 2, that big challenge is the talent pipeline, but of course that offers huge opportunity. Number 3, and I think this started to truly come out yesterday afternoon and this morning, is that the future is today. Number 4, and I'd particularly, when I go to you, Paul, I'd be particularly interested in your thoughts on this, is that I feel Belfast has truly, truly, truly earned its place at the table, and to keep it there. And number 5 is that a hybrid conference like we see right now, I think that format is here to stay. But what are yours? Maybe Andrew, can we go to you first? What are your thoughts on the past 2 days?
Well, I think, Susan, I think the great thing is actually it's very hard to sum up beyond and all the things you think about it, which is brilliant. That's how it should be. So that, like you say, the place theme, I think's worked, and it's brought us together. And I think Glenn's really rich way of thinking, very personally about space, about place. The way today you've been talking about augmenting places and that kind of idea of contesting public spaces with augmented. It's been so rich, and I think what we always try to do is bring lots of different perspectives on it, even horses' perspectives on it, with the piece yesterday. So I think that to me is right. I mean, there's clearly underneath there's this fantastic trajectory that's embodied in Belfast, and bringing everybody together here, I think, has been absolutely brilliant for that. But it has been also about the bringing it together. So there's amazing talks and things, workshops, posters all happened on the stage, but it's also been the conversations. It's been the stuff that's happened late into the night, thinking about how you tie this stuff together and what people might do next. Mm-hmm. And that's that. Yeah. So it's been absolutely brilliant from my point of view.
So it's the unstructured nature of the structure of the entire thing. It's
a bit of both, isn't it? It's the magic happens in between the. Yeah. I mean, I thought that the session this morning, from different perspectives looking at place, then it's the conversations that generates as well. The things people learn from each other.
Yeah, and of course, an awful lot of a conference too is not about what necessarily goes on stage, but what happens at the networking, on Twitter, and of course also on the follow-on that happens later too. Paul, your thoughts on the past 2 days?
I suppose the first thing I'd say is I'm a little embarrassed about having to say anything, having heard Glenn. We probably should have just stopped then. And I want to thank him. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And maybe particularly for those of us that are from this capital T place, capital P. It's also to do with Glenn's kind of thought about where we're going and what is the future, because this has been incredible, and it's been like a celebration, and it's been important for Belfast because, as Peter Bazalgette said, we don't often get the exposure that we need, and the creative industries aren't necessarily seen. And to have it in this fabulous kind of glass cathedral where people could look in on us and see what is actually going on, and to have the publicity and to have the minister here. And it felt a little bit like Freshers' Week, because we'd all been let out for the first time, and we were kind of meeting up, and there's that huge celebration. And I don't want in any way to dampen it, but we need to remember we're at a crucial moment. And we're at a moment where we need to think about where we're going next and what the next piece is and how we sustain where we've been if we've had any success. And if we have had any success, those of you in the room maybe don't know we have a woman called Nuala Toman, who's been the project manager, who is now leaving us. And I can't sit here and not tell her that I'm heartbroken about that. And she has been incredible in the programme. I just want to say that. Absolutely. But if we're going somewhere, we need to think about 2 things. How are we going to do this? But what are we going to do with what we've got now? I was from the kind of hippie era, I'm ashamed to say, or maybe not ashamed to say, but Stuart Brand was huge then. He made a thing called the Whole Earth Catalogue, which was the first ever Google, because you could go into it and buy anything. And Stuart Brand now runs a thing called the Long Now Foundation. And we need to think about the long now as well as the long future, and how we sustain where we are now before we take it into the next piece. And I think there's two things that might help us do that. One is to think about what the economy looks like now. Because originally when we were in this place, it was about brawn, if you like. Working was about brawn, it was about your hands, it was about muscle and what you did. And we've probably been in an area where it's been about brain and intellect and how you use that in the workspace. But I hope we're going into a workspace which is about the economy of the heart. Now, what I mean by that is not some hippie piece again, but thinking about work as something that you want to do, not something that you simply do to get better off in a way, that you do work. And it's obviously a post-COVID piece, but obviously as well thinking about work that we do that enhances the community we live in and increases citizenship, which over these 2 days, everything we've seen has been about, and that the way in which the creative industries can sustain a different definition of citizenship. And I'd like to think that somehow that economy of the heart becomes the thing that we move towards, particularly when you look at what governments are trying to do to us and to that notion of what work is and where we should be going. And we heard a great deal about the metaverse, which I don't think is a thing, and I think it's definitely not going to be a thing if a certain social media get their hands on it. It will not be the thing that it should be, enhancing citizenship, at least. But I like to think about a different meta, which is metanoia. And Glenn will know what metanoia is because he studies words. And I only came across it recently. But metanoia is the journey one goes through to change one's life, one's thinking, or one's work. And I think we need to think about how we construct the metanoia of the future to sustain the long now, but to take us into the new period. And that's going to be a battle. So let's not get carried away with how brilliant it is, because we've got the next battle to fight.
Certainly, it sounds like that you didn't come up with that now 5 minutes before you came on stage at all. They've been two things that have been rumbling around in your mind for quite a bit.
I'm lucky enough to be on a task force that was created by the minister who was here yesterday to think about where we're going. And I threw that thing out about the economy of the heart, and a number of people wrote to me and said, you need to think more about that. There's something. So I don't know what it is, but I'm throwing it out there for everybody to think about it. But we need to redefine what work is again, going into this so-called fourth industrial revolution. And I love that idea about the economy of the heart alongside this metanoia, the journey we have to take to change our lives and to change the society that we live in. Because that's what we're doing in the creative industries. This is really, really important. It's not, like for Belfast, this is a chance to bring in a social and cultural dividend, if we handle it right, that enhances young people who are living in disadvantaged areas, people who have never had access before. That's what this is about, not just the economic growth, because actually the economic growth will look after itself.
So, as we think about that, Andrew, as I was truly listening to every word of that around the economy of the heart, I'm so grateful of the fact that I've had that experience over the past number of days working with the team here at Beyond. From your point of view, what has made this conference, or who are the people that have made this conference what it is and enabling all of us to be part of this economy of the heart through it?
Well, I think it's, we try to do this as a hybrid event. So it's we talked about the importance of the people who brought their thoughts to the stage, the workshops, the people here in Belfast, but you've got the online audience who have a really interesting engagement with it. The ability to engage with colleagues simultaneously watching something when you're in the room, who aren't here, has been absolutely fantastic, and that's been really dynamic. And to put that all together is really the team behind Beyond. So that's it's Tara, it's Sam. This is our fourth gig, isn't it, guys? Our fourth of many, I hope. So Sam and Tara and Anna and Eliza and Lottie are working there behind the scenes. Our fantastic AV crew. It turns out it's not that easy to do a hybrid conference that keep everything live at the same time. We've had a brilliant crew from the Titanic as well, and I think the team want to make a particular shout out to Jonathan Campbell for going above and beyond. And of course, behind the scenes, as Paul's paid tribute to Nuala, Nuala's been right in the heart of planning this for months to bring this together and to make sure that it did do, having brought the idea of talking about place as a perspective on what we're all doing, that Belfast was the place and was reflected in that, from the Lord Mayor last night and the band through to Glenn, signing us off at the end of the conference. So I'd like to say thanks to all of them, and actually, Susan, I'd like to say thank you to you as well. I think you've been a fantastic MC. You've kept us. You've kept this lot, and they are hard enough at the best of the times, keeping going, keep them on time, but actually you've brought so much of yourself to it as well, and your own experiences, and those sharp summaries, those poems, the list. It's been absolutely fantastic, so thank you very much.
Well, I have to say, it's been an honour. It really has to come from the outside in, as I do in many ways. Obviously, I'm not from Belfast. I'm not from the industry. So thank you very much for having me in every way. I don't just mean physically in this place, but allowing me into your place as well to see what you do and how you do it, but also how excited you are. And I know I'm going to become an informal representative of the industry of the future. We're at the very, very end stage now, and I'm going to give the last word. I'm going to give the last word to you, Paul, as you talk about, think about metanoia, and as regards how we need to move forward and think about the way in which we are going forward. When, let's say, and I'm quoting Glenn here, if we were to think 10, 20, 30 years hence, and we would look back to the conversation that we've had today, or all the work that has been done in the 10 years of this initiative, or the whole idea of the audience of the future, etc. What would you love for people to say about where we are now? Final word.
It's always about not the technology, but about what stories we tell with those technologies, and where those stories and those discourses take us in our lives and in our relationships with others. And what I'd really like to see is we tend to talk ourselves being a network, and we're this network and this clusters network. And if you go back to even 1995 and Negapronte and being digital, we need to remind ourselves that a network is not about information. A network is about community. And God help us if we don't defeat some of those political ideas out there and create the community that includes everybody and ensures that everybody is doing the job that they want, which is a job from their heart in the economy of the heart.
Perfect. Well, I think that indeed is a great way to bring us to a close today. Thank you indeed to each and every single one of you for being here. And the last thank you has to go to each and every one of you for being here with us right throughout, for engaging with us, for being part of the whole experience, because it was designed not just to be hybrid, but also multifaceted across many ways. So on behalf of the Beyond team, thank you sincerely. We will see you all next year, hopefully in a fully digital, but perhaps hybrid way again next year. Thank you, and safe home to you all, and goodbye.